Welcome to the Embodiment Podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with embodiment specialists from around the world. I'm your host, Mark Walsh. So on the show today, Ari Geva. So Ari is an old friend of mine from Tel Aviv, from Israel. He has background in martial arts. He served in the military there. We'll probably talk about that. And he's also a Grinberg Method therapist. So we'll definitely chat about that. So Ari, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So we always begin with the same question. How did you get interested in working with the body?
I kind of looking for something that was not ordinary work. And I kind of, I think I was looking for magic.
And as a child, were you like very into sports? Like, let's start right at the beginning. Like, when did the martial arts start? Like, what was the early experience here?
I was very into sport in all kind of, I was, the best swimmer, basketball, football, practice all over sports. And basically, I think I think when I was 14 or 15, I understand that if I want to be happy, it should connect to body.
That's a great realization. That's a great realization to have at such a young age, isn't it? Like, because I was brought up with a lot of books by teachers, and they were like, "Hey, you can think your way to happiness." And I think by 16, I just found that not to be true. I was like, "Okay, well, I'm real clever, but I've read all the books in the library, like literally, but I'm not happy. Like, what's going on here?"
Yeah. I think when I was 15, I just discovered this small yoga book, and it was very new in this time because it was not very popular like today. And I was fascinating for it, and I said, "Wow, this is the way to live the life in a way."
And then I guess I should say for listeners, Ari is Israeli, in case the name and the accent didn't give it away. So Shalom Motek. And I guess you then did your military service just a few years after that.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, because you're our first kind of ex-commando we've had on the show, and you've, I don't know what you're prepared to share publicly, but you've certainly told me some stories over the years. So you want to say a little bit about that period?
I was in Israeli Special Forces, and it was like very, very, very tough training. And after this, I was in the first Intifada. We fought for like half a year in a refugee camp. Very, very intense time.
Yeah. So that was the kind of Palestinian uprising there. And you were really in the shit, right? You were really in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Like, tell us a couple of stories. I just want listeners to get a sense, because I know where you come from a little bit. I've been to some of those places. I've heard you talk about it in depth. I'd love listeners to have a bit of a sense of who's on the show today.
It's for example, in my team, we started 32 people. In the end of the training, we stayed only 10 people because the other people didn't survive. It was too tough, mental and physical. And after this, because we were so trained, they took us to the hardest refugee camp in Gaza in those days.
Yeah.
And we basically fight 20 hours a day, raining, beating. It was you sleep for 2 hours a night, and you all the time fighting.
Yeah. So, even the training was mega brutal, wasn't it? You told me about just getting beaten the entire time.
Yeah.
You were like in terms of the effect on the body mind, it must be fairly extreme just to be kind of, it's in some ways the stereotypical, the drill sergeant shouting at you and hitting you kind of thing. This is quite a different experience than the average Israeli kind of teenager who, just sits looking bored at a checkpoint with an M16.
Yeah, when I came, I was tough, but I didn't know that it will be so tough because, for example, part of the training is to stand for 3 hours and to hit each other until you almost lost conscious, because they want you to be able to function also when you get beaten.
Mm-hmm.
So they train you to get beaten and to continue to be focused. Or, for example, you train, there was weeks that you get to train for 40, 50 kilometers a day. You sleep 1.5 hours, and it's also to train you to be tired and to continue function.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of the kind of military training, the SAS training in the UK and other special forces training I've looked into.
I saw, recently I saw there was a program about the SAS in the Israeli TV, and I look at it and I said, fuck, it's so easy.
Of course, you guys do everything more extreme. Though I suspect
in the end of the training, they walk for 70 kilometers. And I said, fuck, we walk for 90 kilometers.
And what people don't understand about Israel is it's basically been on a kind of permanent war footing, surrounded by neighbors that want it to not exist for such a long period of time that, you guys kind of lead the way in a lot of these things. But pretty brutalizing, right?
Yeah, it's very brutalized. And I'm a gentle guy, so it didn't fix me so much.
And what's this? First of all, there was the training, which is training in sleep deprivation, sometimes kind of going without food. It's essentially what people don't realize is that it's not trying to get people fit; it's more psychological training, right?
Yeah, it's like they take you to your breaking point all the time. Like you. All the day, they take you to your limits, and you cross your limits, and you see who gets to break and who doesn't.
Yeah, so they're trying to take out the people who are psychologically going to break under pressure. That's the basic idea, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they're walking up the hill for fitness. They're walking you up the hill to see who can't continue and who's not going to mentally have the kind of mental grit to continue.
Yeah. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And
that. Do you think that tradition sort of still continues very much and kind of?
No, not so much. It was too. They stopped with it.
Yeah, I know.
When I was commander, they reduced the effort. It was too much. They understand that it's too much.
Yeah,
I think in Israel now there's only 4 or 5 units that continue to do it.
Yeah, and the Israeli mentality is fairly extreme, isn't it? Particularly when kind of faced with this real or perceived threat, is this idea in Israel of what do they say in the Israeli army, that every rule is written in blood, meaning that this is what our friend Marav, intelligence officer friend of ours, told me. The idea that if there's a rule, it's because someone died to make that rule.
Yeah, definitely. Even in my unit, somebody died in exercise. It's very common. We used to go to exercise, and it was like you didn't know if you're going to come alive from the exercise.
I know in the Russian military they used to say sort of 10% casualties in any given year of training was acceptable.
Yeah, but it was 5%.
Wow. And I mean, that's not just the case people think we're talking to you as a sort of special case here. In some ways, this is just a more extreme version of the kind of national mentality, right? Of kind of being on a war footing and having to be strong and prepared. So how does this kind of more culturally play out?
I think we become a very violent society in a way, a very tough society. And I think a lot of people go into this training or this war situation and they come back to be civilized, and you don't really come back. It affects you in many ways that it took me years to understand.
Yeah. And this is one of the few countries where they kind of pretty much the whole population have some form of military training. So it's not as extreme as yours as a sort of special forces officer, but there's at least, most people have at least a piece of this.
Yeah, I think we're in this time in the world. I think we're Sparta, like Sparta was in Greece.
Interesting. And I guess there's kind of positives and negatives in that, right? Like people are pretty robust. There's an alertness. But then, I guess one of our main topics for today is going to be trauma. So how do you see, maybe you can say your own story, but also in terms of more generally like trauma playing out?
Yeah, I think we're a society that we have everything is very, very extreme. People have no patience to each other. I think it's connected to this. You feel a lot of fear in the air, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah,
more alive in a way, because people they don't know if they're going to live tomorrow, so they're very into living and into doing things, but it's create a lot of problems also.
Yeah, I remember I was there during some of the last Hamas rocket attacks that were there, and I think it was the last set. It was a couple of years back, and there was this sense of very much being alive, which was kind of fun and kind of addictive. But then also there was this huge anxiety in the air that was always there. So, I've been to Israel maybe 15 times or 20 times, and there was always this anxiety in the air, but it was heightened during that period, and I imagine even more during the Intifada. And there was like slight anxiety, and it led to kind of impatience, lack of listening, irritability, cynicism. I saw it. Me. I love Israel, and they also have these things I find quite difficult while I'm there, and that kind of hyperarousal as a trauma symptom, which is kind of culturally embedded.
Yeah, I think I was for many years I was addicted to adrenaline, for sure. Because kind of you have this experience in your blood, in your past, so everything looks very boring after it.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. I was in some interesting places in Africa and various other places, I've been. And when I came home, I was just walking around. Everything was just so grey, It was just like,
exactly.
Extreme sports and martial arts, because that was the only way I could kind of get a little bit of a high that kind of alive. And then just trying to feel alive again in kind of normal daily life. I've been through my own trauma healing process. And, this morning I went for a walk in the park just to wake up before this call, and I really enjoyed it. And these days I can enjoy the bird song and the sunlight and the kind of less intense stimuli. But I mean, Tel Aviv does seem often like this hedonistic town of people seeking these big highs.
Yeah, I think what I see on myself is that I was addicted for many years to limits, to go all the time over my limits, because they kind of, become addicted of it after all this training. And you also become addicted to be in the area of death, to have a dance with death always, to go to extreme things, to do this.
I would do this in various ways, and I used to kind of go to kind of areas of conflict for humanitarian work, and on the surface it would be like, I'm trying to help people, but on another level, as I found with my therapist, it was just I just liked being close to that edge. It's one reason I still like coming to Israel, and there's more and less healthy expressions of this, and because death gives that, and listeners might find this strange, they might be two fucked up guys, but for me it's like there's that feeling of life which is on the edge of death, isn't there? Which is hidden away in our kind of sanitized modern world.
Yeah. It's like I think you're more alive than ever when you feel death. I think this is the problem of most of the people, that they don't feel and they don't know that death is going to show around, to come someday. Yeah. And when you experience this situation that I one time I sat with myself and I said, okay, let's count the time that I was almost died.
Yeah.
And after 50 times, I finished counting because it was too boring for me.
Wow, I think mine's no more than 10. So you beat me on that one. Let's add something in here which is kind of fun. There's also sex and death, isn't there? There's also a way in which, like, being around death makes people kind of horny. Like, Tel Aviv is a sexy fucking place. And people fuck wild in the whole of the Middle East. And, like, the horniest I've ever been was when I had a few days in Dubai on my way to Afghanistan. Like, it was like I was just so fucking randy. It's almost like something in your system is saying you better breed because you could die soon. So I think that's another kind of side of this, right? Like this potential. Talk to sex a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's you want to be alive, you want to feel, you want to take a bite of life. I think it's about this, in a way.
I mean, I've been on holiday. I've been on holiday to Tel Aviv, and it's a fun town. Like it's not relaxing, but it's a fun town.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of closeness to life. And I guess we should also, let's keep going between the kind of fun side of this, because there is always like a fun side, right? Like it's a little dark to talk about, but me and you always have a lot of fun when we get together. There's always smile.
Yeah, sure.
Dark.
I think what it gives you, this for me, it gives this past. It gives me a lot of proportion to life. You see what is important and what is not, and I'm very happy that I have this past in my life.
It's nice to come through the traumas to the other side of gratitude, isn't it? Because for me, people often ask me, "Where do you get your energy?" And I'm like, "Well, I really know I'm going to die." Like where do you get your sense of purpose and drive, Mark, to put all this stuff out there? I'm like, well, death, like seeing the possibility, really seeing it. When I do purpose coaching with people, that's one of the main things I try and confront them with, through death meditations and, more controlled and safe ways than we have. It's like the Fight Club thing, what do you want to do before you die, where he puts a gun to someone's head? Yeah. I'm not suggesting you should do that, but it has a way of bringing things to focus and creating gratitude. Like me and you were sitting there eating hummus, and you're thinking, oh, this is fucking great. No one's throwing rocks at me, And it's you know what I mean? It's that real ease of laughing and gratitude. Like me and Murab have so much fun, And then there's the sense of purpose and drive as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't need to go into this small. I see a friend of mine that they have, the couples, and they have fight, and he didn't tell me, and said, and look at them and said, hey, come on, guys, you don't know if you're going to live tomorrow. Fuck up. Just stop mess around with all this shit.
Yeah, there's not sweating the small stuff, isn't there? That's really important.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about, we should also talk about some of the harsher things in terms of kind of trauma, like numbing, right? Like this wanting the excitement and wanting to feel can also come with a kind of numbing, which is not healthy, say for intimate relationships. It can make it quite difficult to be in an intimate relationship.
Yeah, it took me time to understand that for me, in the beginning of when I was young, instead of conquer the Arabs, I used to conquer the women.
Say that again. So instead of conquer the Arabs, I used to conquer the women. It was like the same pattern. Oh, I see. To get the excitement, to get the kind of sense of being dominant and victorious.
Yeah, it was like I was in the same direction, but just change it to another. So like you go from, in my experience, it took me time to understand that you train to do all the time to conquer the mission.
Yeah.
And then you have the mission, next mission. So it was like with the women.
So it's difficult to actually have that sort of stable, intimate connection when it's driven by kind of mission and adrenaline, right?
Yeah. You don't know what to do when life is stabilized. You don't know what to do with it.
And that's what people don't get, is the stable life becomes uncomfortable. Peace and calm and stability become more uncomfortable than being uncomfortable, because being uncomfortable and stressed is normal.
Yeah. For example, I have a sister that she lives in Holland, in Rotterdam, and I came to visit her. And after 3 days, I said, "Sis, I'm going to go to get nuts from all the quiet around it. How you can live here? It's so fucking boring here. Nothing is happening. Nothing."
Okay, there's two pigeons fucking outside my window now. This is the strangest backdrop to our conversation. They're really going for it. Okay, well, another 3 floors up. Good luck to them. So what else? So in terms of your own trauma then, so, you're in these camps, you were fighting every day, you once described it. And I know there's some sort of security issues. You have to be a little bit careful, but, like you described it as kind of hell, basically, to me once. Yeah,
fucking hell, because when I fought it, they thought that every day it's going to end, because it wasn't, so it was new. So it was a very long time and very tough situations. And for example, we used to take shower only once a week. So, and we used to sleep in a bus next to a refugee camp. We didn't have even tent. So we used to sleep in a bus, and all the time we used to be wet because it was raining all the time. So you slowly become nuts from this, and you're all the time fighting. You're all the time fighting for your life.
Yeah.
Like you have no laws, no nothing, just fighting for your life.
And there were situations I know where, you know, maybe say if you're willing to share or not, where you were really in absolute terror, right? Like surrounded and cut off.
Yeah.
Times I don't think people.
We were in a situation that I thought that we wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
I thought that we were in every Friday they all the in the mosque they used to tell them I don't know how to say it in English, like you go and hit the soldiers and blah 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 blah, all this in Arabic. So we used to go in Friday, it was the hot time. So we used to, for example, there was one Friday we used to go in Gaza area to certain mosque to make them quiet, and we were only 10 people, and it's like after 15 minutes they all went out from the mosque and they were surround us, and it's like 1,500 people with knives and everything, and I thought we wouldn't make it.
Yeah,
we wouldn't go out.
I don't think people maybe listening who've never, people may have experienced fear, but that's quite a different thing from terror, isn't it? It's quite a different thing from, okay, I've been in one or two of those as well, where I'm like, okay, this is it, you know, this is it.
Yeah, it's fucking scary. It's like, it's not scary. It's like you go over the fear. You don't feel any fear in this situation. You just go into automatic pilot in a way. You understand that I went to this in the body, in the feeling to this situation a few times, and I see that in this situation I understand that I am going to die, and I'm going to take as much as I can with me. We all understand that. For example, this situation, I don't remember how it ends. I have few situations that I have only the start, the middle, and I don't know how it ends. I don't remember.
Traumatic memories is kind of create that blackout kind of thing. Yeah, I understand that. And other things people experience on these kind of things, like self-medicating. So like secondary addiction issues can be a big thing for people, kind of. And then the flashbacks, or the kind of, I've heard you tell these stories, and sometimes it's like it's really real for you as you tell them. It's not like a distant, faded memory. So the memory can be fucked up both ways, right? Either being too present or being completely missing.
Yeah. I for example, I have a problem with short memory. I don't have short memory. Like,
isn't that from the weed though?
No.
Really smoke a lot of weed. No. You see people swing from the military service, then they go to India and they go crazy and they take a lot of drugs and they're trying to sort of deal with trauma that way, and they're trying to numb out, or they're trying to deal with their trauma like by spiritually bypassing it, doing kind of spiritual trip. I mean, like, let's maybe talk a little bit about recovery here, because, having just got you on the show for your war stories as a kind of tough guy, I mean, you're a trauma therapist. You've not. First of all, tell us your own healing journey, and then we'll sort of maybe do some recommended stuff.
When it started, until the age of 35, I didn't thought that I have anything. Everything was. I didn't even look at the time of that I serve in the army as something, something special, because every Israeli almost have it. I thought, well, I wasn't it was too tough, but I said, okay, well. And then in the age of 35 something, I was in a workshop, and suddenly I have a connection with the feeling of what it was over there. Like, until then, I didn't feel anything. And then I understand that I have problems, and then somebody told me that it's PTSD, because I didn't know this name before.
Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder.
And then I start to research it, and I start to many treatment, from martial arts until Grinberg Method, which is very, very good for healing trauma. Basically, what you do is you focus on something that was in the army, for example, and then if you have a lot of attention to your body, then the feeling that connect to it start to go up. Fear, sadness, and everything, and then you just let it, go out, and then after a while, it didn't affect in the way that I did, and it wasn't fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I discovered that they start to treat trauma with MDMA.
Mm-hmm. So this is the ecstasy, basically, right?
Yeah.
The active chemical ingredient of ecstasy.
Yeah. And that was amazing because I did it for a few times and it was the best. It saved my life. Actually saved my life. Because you take the medicine and after half an hour, it starts to work on you. And then you're in Gaza or in the training and you see everything clearly. It's like unbelievable. And you feel all the body heal itself very quick and very fast.
And are there any risk to that in terms of, it's a fairly strong drug. So, I mean, are there issues, problems there?
Sorry?
Are there any risks to that? Because it's a pretty potent drug. And I know a lot of people in Britain during the rave years took a lot of ecstasy and kind of burnt themselves out from it, ended up depressed and all sorts of things.
Yeah, but if you do it, you have to do it not so often. I don't do it so often. And I do it in a certain place with a certain somebody that he knows what he's doing. Like he's a therapist with it. He knows what he's doing. And it's, for example, when the first time that I did it, before I had like a fear attack. I don't know if it's taken in English.
Mm-hmm. Like panic attack.
Panic attack. Actually, panic attack. And I didn't know what to do, nothing that I did affected me. Nothing works. And then I did it. I went to this guy and he said, I told him, listen, this and this and this I'm dealing with. He said, okay, I will bring another guy because we're afraid that you're going to be violence inside. And then I took it. He said, I have one thing that I want from you. We go together into the room until the effect of the drug going down. You don't go out from the room. I said, okay. And then it started, and I was so surprised because everything shifted very quickly. And there was a lot of fear in my body going out, like I was sweating and everything. And after it goes down, I said, man, if I was 1% with less control of myself, the two of you were killed in the room because I would fucking kill you. Because I was trained, when I lose control, I can become violent. So, but it was amazing. And then after the day after, I was with no fear at all. The panic attack stops completely. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and is the experience kind of often, there's this sort of going back into the trauma, but then there's also sort of this feeling of, is it kind of like love? I mean, that's generally been, there's the experience of basically kind of resting in love and that eliminating the fear.
Yeah, it's also love, and it's also, you understand what you miss in your life, because the drug, for example, give you the feeling of trust. And then I understand that in when we trained and when we fight, in a way, I lost trust I also lost trust in the government and everything, because in a way they leave us, to fight alone over there. Yeah. So I felt that I lost trust in the government and in everything. And then you feel you understand that you gain the trust again. So it was an amazing experience. I said, wow, this is trust. I said, okay.
Got it.
I understand what
it shows you like, okay, this is what I've been missing that I didn't even realize. Because as you say, at the beginning of your trauma journey, you were just numb. You didn't even get there was a problem. And then you went, hang on a minute, problem. And this is like another level where you go, trust is another why traumatized.
And every time that I'm doing, you don't know what you don't know. This is the problem. You live in, for example, I did once one journey with it, and I realized that I have something in the chest that I can. It's like electricity button, that I can change. That one time I go to the reality, and all the reality around me is threatened and want to kill me, and fighting. And then I change something, and now all the reality around me is loving me. And it was so funny to see it. It's like, tack, 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 tack. Amazing to see it.
Great. And like trust issues are a real big deal if people are trying to do intimate relationships. I even see it in business relationships I've done in Israel. Just nobody fucking trusts anyone. There's like suspicion and, it's just really hard to do business in that environment. It's really hard to be intimate with people because in intimacy, there's always this sense of like, hey, I'm going to trust a little bit, and then you trust a little bit more, and then we kind of build that up to something really deep, you know? Like, but you have to kind of give a little bit. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a giving rather than taking, or a defensiveness, because otherwise, because it's like give, and it kind of elevates to something beautiful. And it's difficult when there isn't that there to be intimate. And self-trust.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem in Israel because nobody trusts each other.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that there, and things can get normalized. Like the hyperarousal that I had from trauma when I first went to Israel, I found it quite relaxing because everyone had it, so it was just normal. So nobody says I'm fast in Israel. Nobody says I'm rude and I interrupt. Like there's certain things in Russia I like for this reason as well. And it was like, it's just normalized because everyone's fast and everyone's a bit aggressive. And it's just kind of how it is. And, you know, I'm not thinking I got a problem. You know, like I had a real shock after I spent a month in Israel one November, just because it's pleasant in November and England sucks in November. And I came back home and I got in loads of trouble with British people because I'd taken on that Israeli sort of low-level trauma and just pissed everyone off. It was funny, man. And, you know, it's like me and Marav are chatting, we're interrupting each other, we're insulting each other, we're going 1,000 miles an hour, we're laughing through that. There's a sort of cynicism there. And that's kind of fun when everyone's kind of got it in a way, right? Like, obviously, you know, I want to be careful with this. I don't want to, like, say being traumatized is a good thing. And there's a way in which when you're in that soup, it's both normal and even enjoyable.
Yeah, sure. It's also happened to me when I'm going abroad, you know, outside. People look to me very slow, and very indirect, and very, very afraid. All the people, I used to live in the States and I was amazed. Like all the people around me looks to me so, you know, so weak and so afraid from life. I said, oh, come on, guys, what the fuck happened with you?
Did you feel like a fox in a chicken house?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I know what you mean.
Wow, I mean, they're so innocent. They're so, you know, wow.
It's kind of cute, isn't it? And I think part of the danger of trauma is this isolating feeling of I'm a wolf in a world of sheep, you know, which can be really arrogant, snobby, but it can also be like, it just othering. I've had that experience of feeling other than the people are, you know. I remember when I got back from a couple of places, the only people I wanted to be around were like firemen and ambulance drivers and people that kind of understood edge, because they were like ex-soldiers, police, you know, people that were on an edge, because I just couldn't relate to everyone else. And it was kind of lonely, you know?
Yeah, and it's also, it takes me time to understand that in a way, the only people that I can talk with is my friend in the unit, because they're the only guys that I understand really me.
Yeah.
And I told a friend of mine, I recently told them and said, listen, when I meet these guys, I feel that we have the same blood.
There's that very bonding experience of having gone through something incredibly tough together, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very funny experience. It's like really strange. Like most of these guys, I wouldn't choose them to be my friends, you know?
Yeah.
They're fucking crazy, all of them. But fate.
And is there a difference now between, you know, the guys in your unit who haven't done this work and you having been through all this Grinberg Method and MDMA treatments, and somatic treatments? Like what's the difference now between you and them?
They look at me like something wrong with me.
Because what? You're calm and happy.
Yeah, like what the fuck happened? What are you dealing with it? It was 30 years ago. What the fuck?
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's kind of sad, huh? I mean, there's that like big gap between you and them in terms of well-being, I guess.
Yeah. And you know, one guy a few years ago, we have a meeting, and one guy called me and he said, you have effect from the army? I said, what do you mean? He said, you know, I don't go out from the house without a gun, a knife, and a big gun in the car. You know, he said, you think it's connected to the army? I look at him and said, come on, guys, you really serious? You really asked me this question? So, man, you fucked up. Go get the treatment.
Yeah, I mean, we laugh though, man, because from our point of view as people working with psychologists and coaches, and, you know, you've helped me out on trainings I've done there, and, you know, that world of kind of Tel Aviv liberal kind of looking at things, it's normal, right? But from a certain point of view, it isn't normal, and it isn't there's a lot of barriers to getting treatment.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just not in the mindset of people I know as well.
Especially people, I wouldn't go to treatment. If I wouldn't go to learn the Grinberg Method, I think I will never go to take, treatment or something like this. It wasn't in my world,
Yeah.
It looks to me as a weakness in the beginning.
Yeah, that's the same in the humanitarian sector. It's the same amongst journalists. It's the same amongst many police. It's not just the military. If people out there are thinking, I once did an article about how to talk about trauma with the military. I think it's still online. And I said, look, you guys, you're using the wrong language. You just sound like a bunch of pussies. Like most of these guys have a really strong value of strength, and you need to frame this as something that can make you more strong, and that there's no kind of shame or weakness in looking at it. If you frame it in a kind of more typical kind of liberal, softly. I remember actually when I was in Israel, I needed a therapist to help out, because I always have a therapist to help out when I'm training in case there's an issue, who's local and speaks the language. And I said to Nir, our kind of mutual therapist friend, I said, can you help me out? And he wasn't available. I said, well, send me someone. Just make sure he's not a pussy, okay? And he sent me you, and you were there, and you walked in, and this kind of like commando rock dude, I was like, okay, yeah, he'll do. But because I was training a bunch of humanitarian aid workers and other people that just weren't going to buy it if you or me were sort of super softly.
Yeah, they couldn't take it. Even me, after all these years, if somebody is too weak in front of me or too soft, it's driving me nuts.
There can be I think there's a real shadow. I know you've done some shadow work with Nir, and I have too. And there's a shadow around like weakness and vulnerability, isn't there? There's a part of me, there's part of me that like despises the weak, and and that's really dangerous because it can really block compassion.
Yeah, because it's also you train for half a year never to feel weakness at all.
Yeah.
And the people that are weak, they just get rid of them. So you become really, really, really tough. So it's the biggest shadow, I think.
Yeah. I think what people don't realize is that not only the vulnerability gets projected outside. I realized this when I was like super loving my niece when she was a baby and she had all these illnesses and she was really weak. And because sometimes it comes as a sort of love, like you'll see the soldiers who have this like really sweet, innocent looking girlfriends, like little blonde girls or whatever. And it's like they're projecting that vulnerability onto others, or the aid workers have project it onto their clients. So they'll be, I'm helping the poor, vulnerable people of Africa, this kind of heroic complex where they're not able to accept their own vulnerability. So they're projecting it onto, the people they're trying to help. But then weird things happen when there's that setup.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, shame's another big one, right? There's like the shame of I'm fucked up, the shame of I don't want to get treatment. Like, I think particularly guys, we don't do so well with shame.
I think also when what I see afterwards, what I did was I saw experience from training and I saw experience from fighting. And from fighting, I see that you have a lot of guilt issues to deal with, guilt and shame.
So guilt is like, you maybe you're in a situation where you shot some kid who's throwing a rock at you, and on the one hand, like your life's in danger, right? Like one of those rocks hits you, you're fucked. Yeah. But on the other, exactly. 20 of them hit you, you're really fucked. Like these aren't little pebbles. We're talking, rocks as big as your fist. But on the other hand, he's 15 and throwing rocks, and you've got a machine gun. Like there's a big difference there, right?
Yeah, you're always in a situation that whatever you choose, you lose.
Yeah. So either either I kill this guy who's maybe brainwashed 15-year-old and doesn't know any better, and he's been brought up to hate me. He doesn't even see me as a human being. He just sees me as, an evil Jew. And I've been brought up a certain way myself. And I've got this enemy image of him. And then it's like, well, if I shoot him, I'm fucked. And if I don't, I'm fucked too, right? So there's no way out.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's always a situation like this. All the time. So it's like, so after this, you deal with a lot of issues about it. Because no matter what you choose, it was bad.
And I've noticed with ex-combatants, there's often a kind of forgiveness journey or a healing journey, where it's like, I spoke to people that survived the Holocaust, for example, in Israel. And I said, oh, you must hate the Germans. And they go, I can't afford to hate the Germans Because all my friends
sure.
hated the Germans all got cancer and died. You know, like there's got to be a forgiveness journey there too, right?
Yeah. I think basically hate is a reaction to pain, you know. Hate is a reaction to pain in the heart. And if you allow yourself to experience the pain in the heart, so you don't feel hate. I look at it as I don't hate the Arabs, you know. I understand them. When I was fighting with them, I understand them. I said, if I was in their shoes, I used to fight even more because I understand the problem. There's no one that is justice, not we and not them.
Yeah.
It's a fucked up situation.
Yeah. And this empathy for the enemy is quite interesting. Soldiers often feel quite close to those they're fighting because they're also in the shit with them. They're also in that life and death situation with them. And it's not such a big leap to go, well, if there were soldiers with M16s from a different religion, ethnicity running around my fucking home, you know, I'd pick up whatever I could and try and get them out, you know? So I guess it's not so hard for, you know, what I love is when I hear you talking about like trust and forgiveness and love is that you have real credibility in this area. Like I remember I was teaching in Tel Aviv once, I'm not sure if you remember this, and someone was being really cynical and you just basically, you were there as a sort of emergency assistant, but you just stood up and went, you shut up, you listen to him, he knows what he's talking about, I was Commando, fuck up. And you were like proper Ari about it. And I was just like, yes, that's a good point. Thank you, sir. You know, but it's real credibility talking about love and peace for people who have studied martial arts, been in war zones, done work on the sharp edge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's also, you know, that the last one that I did, the MDMA, I was going into very, very deep, I don't know, the subconscious, or I don't know how you call this, very, very deep into the feeling of what I felt in the fighting battle. And I saw that everyone that I fight with, I'm still energetic with him. And then I saw it very clearly, and I can separate it. I was amazed. I was like, everyone that I was fighting with him, we're still connect. And I just can let it go. It was an amazing experience. Like I never felt so free in my life after this journey.
Well, I'm really happy for you, man. Like, you know, I've seen you kind of pre and post on this. It's nice to see you on that journey. And, you know, I find with trauma that it kind of continues at different levels. So there's the basic level of, hey, I can sleep at night, you know, and then there's the next level of I can actually be in a relationship and it's just about tolerable. And then there's the next level of, you know, some forgiveness work, shadow work, healing work. You know, it's like different layers. And there's like circles, like every few years I come back to my own trauma and I work with it at another level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see all the time layers of layers. Because each time that I finish with one layer and said, okay, I finished with this thing in my life, and then shit, I have another layer.
And almost, I know listeners could really misunderstand this. There's a real gift of trauma, isn't there? For me, it's motivated so much of my embodied practice. And it's, you know, I've explored EFT and EMDR, both of which I'd recommend to listeners. You know, I've explored so many somatic experiencing. Another one I'd recommend to listeners, Paul Linden's work, of course. You know, listen to the podcast from Paul Linden or the podcast from Elizabeth Gray if you're interested in trauma, guys out there listening. I just want to have listeners to have some understanding of like there's hope, there's things you can do, you know, like there's definitely like modalities out there which can be effective and different things work for different people, but there's good shit out there. And then the next one is like, it's almost like, how is trauma a gift? Like, it's a fucked up question, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I, for example, when I start to deal with trauma, suddenly I experience what is compassion. I didn't have this feeling before. I was amazed. I was, wow, this is compassion. This is what they're talking about. Then after I found in myself joy and happiness that I wouldn't get because there was times that I was feeling inside so much sorrow from the refugee camp that I think I was few months going in the day, and all the time I have tears in my eyes. I wouldn't pay attention with it, but it was all the time dealing with this sorrow, like very, very emotional a very, very deep pain on the emotional level. And then when it ends, I start to feel happiness that I didn't know that it exists. And I said, wow, I'm so happy. Just to be alive, sometimes I waking up in the morning, I said, I can't believe that I'm alive. It's like, I said, wow, I'm alive. It's like this.
There's this thing called post-traumatic growth that some researchers are looking at. And like, I think there's definitely a kind of increased happiness and compassion and gratitude sort of on the other side of that journey, though it can be a rough journey to go through. So I'm not suggesting that's a positive thing, but there's this sort of gift in the long run, has been my experience. Listen, we're a bit short on time. Could you talk a little bit about the Grinberg method? Because you're well trained in that, and it's not so well known in much of the world. It's a very Israeli thing. It's catching on in Germany, I think, and a few other places. But could you speak a little bit to what that is?
Yeah, it's an Israeli guy that's called Ari Geva that invent a method that basically people come to me, I give them foot reading, because in the foot I can see all the character that they have, all the problems, when it starts, what the problem on the emotional level, the problem with the parents, everything is very accurate. It's like a Röntgen map. And then instead of going to the mind, you go to the body, and then you see the pattern that the person have in the body. And then you go to the pattern and you heal it. In the purpose is that the person can achieve his basic potential. Because when you look at the foot, you can see what the person can be or should be, and what is standing between him and his basic potential. And you go to the body, and in the body you change it by touching, by giving exercise, by a lot of things. It's one of the fastest treatment that I ever saw. It's very fast and very deep.
It sounds Israeli, fast and deep. And I know from experience you give good foot. So, if people are listening, I know we have listeners in Israel. You're based in Tel Aviv, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I work in Tel Aviv. Yeah.
Any other modalities you recommend, Ari?
Sorry?
Any other modalities like trauma healing methods that you recommend, or, that you hear good things about from fellow ex-soldiers and the like?
MDMA, this for sure. I heard that EMDR is good, but for me it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the trauma. It depends if it's one trauma or a lot of trauma. It depends.
Yeah,
but for sure, I know that you have to go to the body, not to the mind. Because with the mind, you cannot heal anything.
Yeah.
Because the trauma sits in the body.
Yeah, if the trauma's in the body, you got to go to the body. It makes sense, right? Like I found the EMDR helpful for sort of individual traumas at a certain level. And there's other methods out there, Paul Linden stuff, somatic experiencing, Hakomi. There's methods. I think different things do seem to work for different people. So I wanted to mention some of the others, because it just feels like different people, just try a few. You know what I mean? Like, don't give up if you try one and it's not there. And it seems like a really holistic solution is the answer, which can involve spirituality. For me, a lot of it was healing journey, was talking to other people who understood, loving relationships. I have one particular, I was doing a lot of this work when I was in a loving relationship with a girl called Sonia.
What I see that helps, when I was doing the MDMA, for 5 hours, I talk all the time what I see. And the thing that the other people listen to this talking, I understand that it healed me. Because you need that somebody hear you.
Hear you, yeah. It's a classic therapeutic thing to be really heard by someone that's hearing. I think is important, and I'd say that without the body things, it's not, you can't just talk your way out of trauma, right? Like you also need these body things to take the charge down. Whether it's
this is when you're on MDMA, or when you do this journey, you also feel the trauma, and you feel it in the body and in the emotional level, and then also you can talk about it. So it's different level. If you only talk about it, on the intellectual level or psychological level, it wouldn't help. to make a difference.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm really glad the world's kind of waking up a bit around this. It feels like people are more educated now. I mean, still a lot of denial, you know, in different areas of the world. The British military are pretty much in denial, you know, and but it does seem like people are waking up to some of this trauma stuff. Is kind of Israel becoming a little bit more trauma aware? I heard there was a famous TV show that had a lot of therapists on and things. Like, it feels like things are waking up worldwide to trauma. Is that the case there?
Yeah. People more and more talk about it, because in my time people didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Now it become more and more normal that soldier will speak about it in TV and all this shit.
Yeah. You think that can go too far?
Yeah. Sometimes I feel, well, they've gone too far.
Okay, there's a healthy balance.
They talk too much. Yeah, it's like, you know, they go to the other side and then become okay in the middle.
Yeah, that's normally the way it works, doesn't it? It's you know, yeah. What is there's some great Israeli sayings about things like this, like you shouldn't go to a whorehouse and complain about seeing dicks, or some great sayings. I love Israeli sayings. Listen, man, I'm going to be back next year, or definitely the year after, if not. So we can hang out and eat some hummus and sit on the beach and have a good time, you know, like we always do. So I look forward to seeing you again out in Tel Aviv. I'll probably be coming for a meditation retreat, and I may do a little bit of work, but probably just hanging out. Daria can get a visa for there without any problem. It's one of the few countries that lets Ukrainians visit, right? Because it's full of fucking Ukrainians and Russians. So you'll see us again. Anywhere where people can find out more about you, like if they were in Israel and they wanted to do a session with you, or do you have anything online?
Yeah, well, they can catch me on Facebook. It's the easiest. It's Ari Geva, Arigeva. If anybody has a question or want to meet me, I will be glad.
Great. So I'll link your Facebook profile to things going on. Okay, cool. Any other resources for people you want to point out that we can link to? Okay, Grinberg Method website.
No, not particularly.
Okay, cool. So final message about the body, Ari. Pass a message, everyone.
People need to understand that the body, if you heal itself, it's an unbelievable tool to be happy and to have nice and enjoyable things in life.
Toda rabba.
Vakasha.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to get more. If you'd like to help us build the Embodied Tribe, leave a review on iTunes or share this on your social media. If you're interested in training globally, sign up to receive the newsletter at embodiedfacilitator.com. Until next time, welcome home to the body.